You could do everything right and still watch your flight leave without you. You book early. You arrive ahead of time. Your documents seem perfect. Your bag looks fine. You reach the airport thinking the hard part is over. Then, in one cold moment, someone at the counter or the gate tells you that you will not be boarding today. Most people assume denied boarding only happens to careless travelers or to people who clearly broke a rule. But that is not always how air travel works. Sometimes the problem is obvious. Sometimes it is technical. Sometimes it is a policy you did not even know existed until it was too late to fix it. That is why this matters. At the airport, tiny details can become expensive disasters. One name problem, one passport issue, one misunderstood connection, one silent deadline, one system error, one sentence said in the wrong tone. The danger is not only that these things happen. The danger is that many travelers do not realize how quickly they can happen. So in this video, we're going to walk through 9 real reasons travelers could be denied boarding in 2026. Not to scare you, but to give you calm, practical awareness before your next trip. Some of these reasons feel unfair. Some sound ridiculous. But once you understand them, you'll travel with sharper instincts and far less guesswork. Number 1. The name on your booking does not match closely enough. This sounds like a tiny problem, but at the airport, tiny problems stop being tiny. You walk up to check in. You hand over your passport. The agent types for a moment, then pauses. Maybe your middle name appears differently. Maybe a hyphen is missing. Maybe one letter is off. Maybe you used a shortened version of your name when you booked. Maybe a third-party site transferred the information badly. To you, it still looks like your reservation. To the system, it may look like a mismatch. And once that happens, the conversation changes. It is no longer about whether the airline believes you're the same person. It becomes a document matching problem. TSA says the name on a reservation should match the ID used for travel, and exact match logic also shows up across trusted traveler systems. That is why a small booking error can suddenly become a real airport problem. Sometimes the airline can correct it. Sometimes there is a fee. Sometimes a third-party booking creates a delay because the airline cannot fully control the original reservation. And sometimes the correction window is gone by the time you notice. The lesson is simple. After booking, check your name carefully. Look at every letter, every space, every hyphen, every middle name. It is one of the least exciting steps in travel, but it can save the whole trip. Number 2, your passport looks valid, but your trip still has a document problem. Many travelers think passport validity means only one thing, not expired. But international travel is rarely that simple. A passport can be technically unexpired and still fail the rules for the country you are visiting or transiting through. Many countries expect months of validity beyond the date of arrival or departure, and requirements vary by destination. IATA advises travelers to check destination-specific passport and visa rules through an up-to-date source, such as Timematic, because airlines use those. Document rules when deciding whether to board someone. Then there is physical condition, a bent cover, water damage, a torn page, a chip that no longer scans correctly. To a traveler, that passport may look used but acceptable. To an airline agent, it may look risky. There are also old passport situations. Maybe your valid visa is still in a previous passport. Maybe you renewed recently and assumed the new passport alone was enough. This is where confidence hurts people. They check expiration. They do not check the rest. Before any international trip, review 4 things: the expiration date, the condition of the passport, the destination's validity rule, and whether you need to carry an older passport with a valid visa. Number 3. You do not have the transit permission you thought you did not need. This is one of the most misunderstood parts of international flying. A traveler sees a connection in another country and assumes, I'm not really entering that country, so I don't need anything extra. Sometimes that assumption is right. Sometimes it is badly wrong. Transit rules depend on nationality, airport layout, whether you stay airside, whether you must collect baggage, whether you change terminals, and whether your itinerary sends you through border control. And some travelers do need transit permission depending on their route and passport. If the airline system says your itinerary requires documents you do not have, the discussion often ends there. That is why this problem feels cruel. You may have booked in good faith. You may never have intended to leave the airport. You may only be connecting for a few hours. But if your connection requires transit authorization, a visa, or any other entry permission, I'm just passing through will not rescue the trip. This becomes even more important with multi-airline itineraries or third-party bookings because baggage rechecks, separate tickets, or terminal changes can quietly turn a simple connection into a real legal entry. So never assume a connection is harmless. Check every country on the route, every stop, and every airline involved. Number 4. Your carry-on was acceptable yesterday, but today it is not. You bought a bag marketed as cabin-friendly. You used it before. It fit in the overhead bin on another trip. Maybe it even passed at check-in. Then, near the gate, an agent points to the sizer, and suddenly the bag that always seemed fine is now a problem. Why does this happen? Because airline rules vary. Some carriers are stricter. Some routes are fuller. Some agents enforce size and weight limits more aggressively. And sometimes overhead bin space becomes the deciding factor even when the bag itself seems reasonable. That is the emotional sting of carry-on issues. You do not feel like you broke a rule. You feel like the rule moved. The safest mindset is not, this bag worked before. The safest mindset is, what does this airline allow on this specific ticket today? Check both dimensions and weight. Pay attention to basic economy or ultra-low-cost fares, where baggage rules can be tighter. And if controlling your carry-on matters to you, boarding earlier can help, because once bins fill up, even a compliant bag may be gate-checked. Number 5. You arrived on time, but you missed the airline's real deadline. This one is painful because it feels unfair. You are in the airport. You can see the aircraft. The gate area is still active. So when someone tells you check-in is closed or boarding is already finished, your mind pushes back. The plane is right there. How can it be too late? Because airline deadlines do not always line up with what travelers think on time means. There is the departure time printed on your booking. Then there is the baggage cutoff. Then the check-in cutoff. Then the boarding cutoff. Then the door close time. Airlines increasingly protect on-time performance by closing processes earlier than travelers expect. This is why experienced travelers often look excessively cautious. They're not being dramatic. They are protecting themselves against silent cutoffs. If an airline says check in by a certain time, believe the earlier time, not the more comfortable one in your head. If you're checking a bag, be even more conservative. If it is an international trip, be more conservative still. The airport has a way of punishing optimism. Traffic, security lines, a last-minute gate change. One small delay can swallow the margin you thought you had. Number 6. The flight was oversold, and you were the easiest person to remove. You book a seat. You choose a time. You pay. Naturally, you assume that seat is yours. But in some markets, airlines are allowed to oversell flights based on the expectation that some passengers will not show up. When too many people do show up, someone may have to give up the seat. In the United States, passengers who are involuntarily denied boarding because of oversales may be entitled to denied boarding compensation. And DOT requires airlines to provide written information about those rights. The amount depends on the fare and how long the delay is. That official language sounds tidy. The real experience does not. Real people miss weddings, cruises, family visits, meetings, and carefully timed connections. They stand at the gate hearing volunteers requested, hoping the problem will not reach them. Airlines also have priorities. Late check-in can hurt you. Low-status passengers may be more vulnerable. Cheap fare classes may offer less protection in practice when the carrier starts looking for the easiest way to solve the oversale. Check in as early as possible. Save your seat assignment. Arrive with margin. And if the airline asks for volunteers, listen carefully before you agree to anything. Number 7. Something about your behavior, tone, or presentation made the airline uncomfortable. This is the category people hate to hear about because it feels vague. And that is exactly why it matters. Airlines and crew do have authority to refuse transport in some situations tied to safety, behavior, or perceived disruption. What feels like stress to you may look like aggression to a gate agent. What feels like a joke may sound like a threat in a security-sensitive setting. What feels like frustration may come across as refusal to cooperate. And once concern enters the conversation, the power dynamic changes very quickly. This does not mean travelers should be afraid of speaking. It means airports are not good places for sarcasm, dramatic jokes, heated arguments, or emotional escalation. Not at check-in, not at security, not at the gate. Even appearance can become part of the picture. Offensive clothing, signs of intoxication, inability to follow instructions, or anything that suggests a passenger may become a problem in flight can trigger intervention. The safest way to think about this is not moral. It is practical. In an airport, calm is protective. Neutral language is protective. Respectful tone is protective. Number 8. Your reservation exists on your screen, but not where it matters. This is the modern traveler's nightmare. You have the email. You have the charge on your card. You may even have a seat number. Then the agent types your name and says the words nobody wants to hear. I'm not seeing a valid ticket. Sometimes it is a sync problem between a third-party platform and the airline. Sometimes the booking exists but was never properly ticketed. Sometimes a schedule change disrupted the record. Sometimes there was a payment issue no one noticed. From the traveler's perspective, it feels absurd. From the airline's perspective, the system is the system. That is why booking problems can be so brutal. Proof of intent is not always the same as proof of a usable reservation. A screenshot helps. A confirmation email helps. A receipt helps. But when the record is broken, help is not always instant. This is one reason many frequent travelers prefer to book direct with the airline when possible. If you do use a third-party site, confirm you have an actual ticket number and recheck the booking before travel, especially after schedule changes. And if something goes wrong at the airport, stay calm and get specific. Ask what they can see. Ask whether the ticket was issued. Ask which part of the record failed. Number 9. The airline believes you may not be fit to fly today. This final reason is the hardest one emotionally because it can feel deeply personal. You may feel fine, or mostly fine. Maybe you are tired, coughing from allergies, recovering from illness, breathing a little harder than usual, or looking weaker than you realize. Maybe you need more mobility support than the airline expected. Maybe you are pregnant and the carrier wants additional clearance after a certain point. To you, the story is simple. I can travel. To the airline, the question is different. Could this become an onboard emergency, a safety issue, or an assistance problem we were not prepared for? And airlines tend to make conservative decisions when uncertainty appears close to departure. This is why preparation matters so much for travelers with visible health or mobility concerns. If you may need wheelchair assistance, request it in advance. If you are carrying important medication, keep it accessible and properly labeled. If a doctor's note would help explain a visible condition or recent recovery, bring it. None of that guarantees a perfect outcome, but it reduces doubt, and doubt is often what stops people at the gate. When you step back and look at all 9 reasons together, a pattern starts to appear. Denied boarding is not always about major wrongdoing. Often, it is about friction, a mismatch, a missing detail, a quiet rule, a stricter interpretation, a system that does not care how reasonable your explanation sounds when time is short. That is why smart travelers do not prepare only for the obvious. They check names carefully. They review passport rules early. They verify transit requirements. They measure bags. They aim for earlier deadlines. They understand overbooking. They stay calm under stress. They confirm reservations directly. And they travel with the kind of preparation that reduces doubt before anyone else has a chance to create it. Because in modern air travel, information is not a luxury. It is protection. And sometimes it is the line between a smooth departure and the moment someone looks up at the gate and says, "You will not be flying today." If this helped you, share it with someone who has a trip coming up. And if you want more calm, practical travel guidance explained in plain language, stay with the channel. The more you know before airport day, the harder it becomes for small mistakes to ruin a big trip.